The Japanese shamelessly discharged nuclear sewage into the Pacific Ocean, once again declaring to the whole earth the shamelessness and stink of the devils as a nation. However, what is more shameless than those bullying the Japanese is the large number of Chinese accounts that emerged in the process to clean up Japan's nuclear sewage discharge. To be honest, the two words popular science have become a very stinking word over the years. Few of those messy big BS on the Chinese internet under the banner of popular science have straight butts. Most of this large group have the experience of studying in the United States and Japan, and have various inexplicable relationships with overseas funds and channels, or they are directly in the United States, Japan, or even rubbish as American citizens. The only reason for the existence of these accounts manipulated by the Americans and the Japanese is to continue to launch cognitive wars one after another against the Chinese in the Chinese network environment, using their accounts and speeches to influence public opinion, to seek the benefit of their own country or spiritual motherland. If you were in the United States, you would never imagine that accounts with Chinese official background or even so-called pro-China accounts could accumulate a large audience on American social media and continue to spread public opinion beneficial to China every day. However, once the roles are changed, you will find that those who represent the interests of the U.S. official agencies and the Japanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and who are proficient in Chinese, can freely publish their country's official and even public opinion on Chinese social media without hindrance. Based on what the intelligence agencies want them to publish, they have influenced and manipulated Chinese public opinion, and distorted the perception of most Chinese people about anything, from the new coronavirus to the war between Russia and Ukraine, and now Japan's nuclear discharge sewage. I think that if there is a day in the future when we need to realize the reunification of the motherland or safeguard China's interests overseas, I firmly believe that this group of accounts will use their accumulated influence to continue to attack China's system and government's decision-making, continue to alienate the people and the country. However, for those rebels, there is no place where they can live a more nourishing and free life than the Chinese internet. This is a great tragedy for any patriot. They can make all kinds of remarks at will, even contradictory remarks, and distort the public's perception at will without paying any price. Since the rise of the internet, the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, the National Security Agency, NSA, and even the FBI of the United States have begun to recruit Chinese-speaking spies and psychological warfare cyber warfare personnel on a large scale on the internet, and since Taiwan is in the arms race after discovering that our own hardware is gradually lagging behind ours, these years have also been desperately investing in cyber warfare forces to strengthen our own soft power in an attempt to gain an asymmetrical combat advantage. For those people who are in the United States but are active on the Chinese internet all the year round, I think something is wrong. All of you Americans and Japanese do not speak on your own social media, but spend so much thought and energy on Chinese internet business. Is this reasonable? Unreasonable. It is so unreasonable that I can only suspect that those accounts do not represent the interests of the account registrants to a large extent, but represent the will of the US government, the Japanese government, and even the relevant U.S. intelligence agencies and the Japanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The biggest problem in China's public opinion environment now is that it is too tolerant of this batch of garbage. How does Twitter do it? How does Facebook do it? How does YouTube do it? It is merciless, never soft-hearted, with an attitude of killing mistakes rather than letting them go, and completely wiped out all foreign accounts that do not conform to the interests of the country's rulers and are suspected of affecting the country's public opinion, one after another from the physical level. If it is really difficult to delete due to perception, it will be clearly marked in the most obvious position that these accounts are owned by foreign government agencies or media. And what are our regulators doing? The advanced experience of the West is here. Do you want to learn it? Over the years, the mechanism of marking IP has finally come out, but I think it is not enough to just mark an IP address. Twitter has actually provided us with a very good solution, that is, it should clearly indicate which foreign government agencies and media these accounts are held by in a conspicuous position, and what the value orientation of these accounts will be of. If I sign up for a Twitter account today and say something good for China, it is very likely that Twitter will label me as pro-China, spokesperson for China's interests, and so on. I think we should introduce the set of mechanisms to mark those foreigners who are proficient in using Chinese, but every time they sing the opposite tune on major public opinion issues, and make voices that are different from our country's own interests. We should clearly indicate on their accounts that these scumbags are all spokespersons for foreign interests. The establishment of this grading system to make a more precise subdivision of the public opinion accounts of those foreign interest spokespersons is not only for the purpose of controlling the speeches of those foreign interest spokespersons in normal times, but also for the future. Like Facebook or Google, they immediately and completely banned all those accounts that serve foreign public opinion. This is the advanced experience of the West. Now that our country's military strength is getting stronger and stronger, and even after it has begun to crush the West in various parts, launching a public opinion war against China is the cheapest, most cost-effective, and most effective for the West way. Cognition, understanding, the most expensive thing for people is this thing, and for most people, it is this thing that is most lacking. The most important combat resource for the West to launch a war of public opinion and perception against China is actually this group of people who are proficient in using Chinese and have established and accumulated extensive and huge influence on the Chinese internet, but they are loyal to serving the interests of the Western government, this group of dog minions and their accounts. There is even too much evidence to reasonably suspect that many accounts are not actually operated by the so-called account owners, but are likely to be operated by the CIA cyber warfare and psychological warfare forces. A year ago, the U.S. Psychological Warfare Unit released some promotional videos on YouTube, which briefly showed how to influence a region from recruitment to planning and how to cause regional turmoil. And a large number of accounts in China are very special, like the tools described in it. Many times, we often turn a blind eye to some abnormal phenomena and are not sensitive enough. You think, that group of people with so-called glamorous identities, if you are in their position, you probably don't even have much time to eat and go to the toilet. But what is very unreasonable is that this group of people, is it reasonable to have enough time to manage and operate a lot of Chinese content every day to export to Chinese audiences, and even have the interest to reply to comments? Especially unreasonable. For those people, an account grading system should be established to separate domestic and overseas accounts. For those who are overseas and represent foreign interests, technical means should be used to restrict them. For example, when registering, they should be verified with real overseas identity documents. After verification, they should be verified at a fixed frequency and cycle, including but not limited to face recognition, document recognition, etc. to push up overseas psychological warfare networks. The operating costs of operating these accounts for combat troops. Just like when we register for Twitter now, if your mobile phone account is bound to a Chinese number, then after you browse for a period of time, websites like Twitter will verify your identity many times and frequently. The entire account will be blocked. This is what Western social media platforms do, but our social media has not carefully screened and analyzed this large number of spokespersons for foreign interests, and has not tried to continuously weaken their influence, allowing them to use Chinese. The internet has become a mouthpiece for foreign interests. It's really sad. In fact, after the big data comes out, it is not difficult to classify and label a person's values and archive his value tendency according to all his speeches, and there is no technical difficulty. What's more, the number of big BS that can enter the head is actually not many, even if it is tracked and classified one by manpower. It is not unacceptable in terms of labor costs. In fact, like now, it is the best time to take advantage of those Americans and Japanese jumping out one after another to mark and track their accounts. If we don't do this link and establish such a system, then when many major events happen in the future, we will still be attacked and backlashed by these overseas public opinion fighters at various levels. But to be honest, I don't have any hope that such a system can be established within 5 years, especially in the 5 years starting from 2023. Writing these ideas is not for the present people to see. Before fresh and reliable blood can enter key positions and control key resources, everything written above has no possibility of realization. However, the more this is the case, the more we should plan ahead for future events. In this country, after all, someone should carry it. Somebody, after all, is going to do the right thing.